Welcome to Introduction to PHP. So we'll be considering how you can install the exam server. Exam server is the application we'll be using to run our PHP scripts. So you need to install the exam server on your local machine in order for you to be able to do the PHP programming. PHP is a server-side programming script. So you need a server to run your PHP script. So we will install our exam server. Then we'll also see some basic syntax and statements and how you can declare variables in PHP and how you can use operators for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and so on in PHP. And how you can write control structures for the if statements and so on. And we'll also look at how you can write loops in PHP. So that's basically what we'll be doing. So to install your PHP, your exam for PHP, you need to click on this link. So you click on the installation instruction, the link provided, apachefriends.org, then download. So when you click on it, then page that comes, then you do the installation there.
Then you download the exam, which is made by the app, which is an open source. So when you download, you don't have to pay anything unless you want to make it. So these are the latest version of PHP. So we have version 7.2.33, and the latest one is 7.4.10, which is PHP version 7.4.10. So this is the latest one. So if you want, you can install any of them. But at the time this video was made, the latest is 7.4.10. So if you visit the website and there is also a latest available, you can install that latest as well. So my operating system is 64-bit. So and this is Windows. If you are using Linux, you have your version also here. So this is Apache for Linux. If you are using Mac, you also have your version here. So you download your version based on the operating system you are using. So if you are using Mac, these are the versions available for you, so you can install it. But I'm using Windows. I'm going to install the latest one, which is this one. So you just download it. So you click, then you download. Okay. So your download will start. So once your download is completed, then you can start the installation. So once you finish downloading your installable exam file, you just double click it and start the installation. So you just double click on the installer. So you are set. Okay, so once the installation starts, you just click on next until the installation is complete. Okay, so you click on the icon. Okay, it seems you have an antivirus plan. In some cases, this may slow down or interfere the installation as well. Please visit the link to learn more about this. Okay, so it's giving me a warning of maybe an antivirus interfering with the installation. So you can turn off your antivirus, but you can also continue as well. If it will not slow down the installation. Okay, so I'll click yes, continue. Okay, then this is a warning. Normally it gives you a warning, and then you just click OK. The installation starts. This is important because an activator user control on your system because an activator user control on your system. Some functions of XAMPP are possibly restricted. If UAC, please avoid to install using to listen or deactivate using after this setup. So just click OK. Then you just click next. So on your installation, some of this one you may not get because machine varies from each other. So the main idea is that once you start the installation and it does not tell you that your XAMPP installer is not compatible with your machine, if you don't get that error and the installation step by step is moving on smoothly, then you are okay. But the errors you may not get as the one you may not get as mine because our machine vary. And besides, I've also installed a number of XAMPP on my machine. So even if I do some installation, there may be some cookies on the machine. So it may be reminding me of doing the new installations. But yours, if it's a new machine, these warnings you may not get. Okay, so these are the features we will get in our XAMPP. So we will need the MySQL and the server, but you can just, we need a PHP. So by default, all have been ticked. We need a PHP admin for our database. So by default, all has been ticked. So you can just accept everything the way it is. So you just click on next. Then you choose the folder in C where you want to save your XAMPP. So if you don't have any other XAMPP folder on your C drive, so you can just choose the default it has given you on the C drive. You need to install it on the C drive. So after that, then you just click on next. Then your language, if your language is English, you just keep the default English and you click on next. Click on next. Okay, so this exam, another the nami.com for example page. So during the installation, this page pops up. But let's see if how far we for installation. So we just click, then our installation will start. We will wait just to the bottom to the installation is successful. Okay, so this is going to the end there. And it will also tell you that installation is successful. Patiently wait while the installation goes on.
So I hope your installation is also going on successful. So once you are done, you just click on finish. Then if you tick on, by default it has been ticked already. So when you just click on finish, the control panel for the example will open. So we are done, so I'm finished.
Okay, so that is the exam control panel. So when you start the exam, this is the panel that you see. Now the exam, whenever you want to start it, you can search for the exam in your search Windows search. So whichever operating system you are using, they're searching for an application. You can just search for it. So anytime you want to start, you can search for it. Then you can just click on it, and it will start the panel. So when you are running you have to run your when you have to run your exam, you need to start the control panel. So you need to start this one. So you need to start this one. So this is the server. So exam is a server. We run PHP on it. So PHP, you cannot just type your code and run it in the browser. It will not work. PHP is a server-side programming, so it needs a server in order for it to run. That's why we install our XAMPP. So all our PHP files, we need to put it on the XAMPP folder, which is our server now. So you create the script, then you go and put it in the server. And in this case, our server is the XAMPP. Now, when we get to a stage where I will demonstrate a live, a real life example, then we can log into our panel for our server. Then I will show you where you can be adding your pages. If you are using in the live example, I may be using the C panel. So then I will show you where you can be uploading your files on the C panel. But in this example, the demonstration and the coding aspect, we'll be using our XAMPP as our server. So to start your server, which is the Apache, you have to click on this one. So you just click on it. Then when it goes to yellow with the stop button, the start changes to button, it means it has successfully started. Now you need to start your server before you can run your PHP script. If your Apache server has not been started, then it's like the server is off, so your pages cannot be accessed. So to run your PHP files first, you need to start your XAMPP control panel and start your XAMPP server, which is the Apache. Now, if we get to database and we are using database, then we have to click on the MySQL. We have to click on start for the MySQL too. So that one too, then you click on start, then that one also runs. Okay, but until we get to the database section, you don't need to start the MySQL. You only need the server aspect. Okay, so now once you are done, you can as well stop a process. Okay, then this is a FileZilla for uploading files to the server. So instead of going direct to the folder where we have our PHP files in the C drive in the XAMPP, you can also use the FileZilla to upload to those servers. Most often we use the FileZilla for uploading to a remote server. Okay, so once again, before you test your PHP script, you need to start the server by clicking on the button for the Apache. So you click it. Now to see the pages, once you start your server, you start your with localhost. So when you type in the localhost, so if you type in the localhost, it will show the home page with the localhost for your XAMPP page. So all subsequent pages, it should be localhost / then the path of your file. So if you another maybe then it should be localhost / the name of your folder. So based on the order of the folders, if so in another folder, then in the mother folder will come, then the child folder will come, and the last file name. So you have the localhost, then the name of the folders will continue, then the last part will be the name of the file. Now by default, home pages are normally index.php. So if you are creating a project and in the project there is a home page, then you have to name the file index.php and put your content there. So in that case, when you write the localhost / the name of the folder / it will automatically find index.php page and display it. So like this page, it means that when you go to your XAMPP folder in the where we put in our pages, there is a folder called dashboard. Then in that folder, there is also a page called index.php. So that's the content of the index.php which is being displayed on this screen. Now, where do we put our PHP files? Now, if you go to your C drive, in the folder XAMPP, okay, now the htdocs is where we put our PHP script. So if you are writing a PHP project, this is where you put in your PHP script. So in the C drive, you will come to your XAMPP folder. Then the htdocs is where we put our pages. So if you double click on this htdocs, so like I told you that this folder is a dashboard. So this is a
So that's a dashboard you can access on the if you type localhost in the browser, that's the dashboard page content. So if you double click on it, you will see the page content for the dashboard. This is already written by XAMPP. Okay, but I want to show you something. So in the dashboard, you can see the index.php. So index.php normally is the first page that shows on the screen when you open a folder in your HTTP docs. So for example, if we want to write our PHP scripts and we want to, for example, save it in a folder we are going to call, let's say, intro. So we have intro over here. Intro. Okay. So here, if you want to access this folder, the content of it is just localhost. So remember, to access the content of your HTTP docs, you type localhost. But first of all, you need to start your XAMPP server. So you need to start your XAMPP server before you can type your localhost in it. So you need to start your Apache server. So this is a server, the Apache. This one is for MySQL. When you get to the database, you need to start this one. But for the server side, you need to start this one. So you click on the start menu. Then once you click, anytime you type in localhost in the browser, you will see the content of your HTTP docs. Okay. So localhost, then slash the name of your folder. But first, I want to show you the page for the localhost. So that's the page for the localhost. So localhost directs to the dashboard. So if you go to the HT docs, you see a folder called dashboard. So in it, there will be a file called index.php. So that will access what is displaying the content. Okay. So if you also change after localhost, we've created a folder, we call it intro. Just to show you something. So in your later project, the folder you save on in the HTTP docs for your PHP files will come over here. So after localhost, in the name of your folder. Okay, so I created a folder called intro. So if I press on this, it will show the content of my folder. Okay, now because I don't have index.php in it, it's showing the content of the files which is in this folder. Okay, so if I go there and I save, so if I create a new file, so this is Notepad++, so that's where we do our coding, our PHP coding. So if you don't have Notepad++, you should also download it. So for example, I'm going to save my index.php. So Control Alt S is for saving the file, a new file for the PHP. Okay, Control Alt then S is for saving a new file. Okay, so if you go to our localhost, we want to save the file in our folder. Our folder is intro. Okay, so you can create index.php inside. Okay, so that's it. for our lesson. Now, PHP starts, to write a PHP syntax, you write less than, then question mark, then PHP. Okay, so this tells the compiler or the server running that is a PHP file. So there's PHP syntax. We are going to write a PHP syntax. To start any PHP syntax, you have to write less than, question mark, then PHP. Then you close with question mark, then greater than. Always remember. So less than, question mark, PHP. Then to close it, question mark, then greater than. Okay. So basically that's it. Now to display an information on the screen, we use the syntax for echo. So we have echo is for displaying something in PHP. So if I want to echo, then you can write HTML syntax in your echo the double quotation. So when you write echo, you have your double quotation where you write the text where you want to display. Then the echo, you can write PHP script inside it as well. Then we want to include use the P tag for paragraph. So I want to write welcome to PHP programming. Okay, then I can close my P tag. Okay, so now like I said, in our index.php, anytime we access our folder, that's the first file that is going to run without even having the extension of that file. So now if I refresh my intro, my local/intro, it will fetch the content of my index.php, which have written this script echo. Then the P tag, in between the P tag, I've written welcome to PHP programming. So with this one, it will be displayed on the screen. I told you echo is for displaying something on the screen. So if I refresh this, okay, so as you can see, welcome to PHP programming. So any text you write over here is going to display. So let's, for example, I write my name over here. Okay, so if I save and I refresh, the display message will also change. So anything you write in the echo, in the double quotation, it will be displayed on the screen. Okay, so that's basically the introduction to our PHP. So, like I told you, we'll be using Notepad++, but there are other environments you can write your PHP script inside. You can use NetBeans IDE, you can use Eclipse for PHP, but we'll be using Notepad++. So like I said, you can install your Notepad++. So you just Google Notepad++, then you can do the installation. So this is the Notepad++. So to start a new file, Control-N, start a new file. Then to save a file when you haven't typed anything yet, Control-Alt, so Ctrl, then the Alt, the Alt key, then the S. So all your hands will be on it at the same time. So Control-Alt, then S at the same time. Then it will bring the dialog box. So you go to where you want to save your file. So all your PHP scripts should be saved at the server side. If you are having a project, create a folder in the htdocs. So if you want to access it, localhost / the name of the folder. Then you can have your index.php file in that folder, which is where you type in your first display content inside it. Okay, so basically, that's it. So that's how you write I've introduced to start a PHP syntax. You write greater than, question mark, then PHP. Then to close it, question mark, then greater than.
Will be editing your code. Okay, so there are a number of ways of writing comments. We have the inline one, the single line comment. So in the single line comment, you start with a slash. So you start with 2 slash. Then after the second slash, you write your comment over here. Now remember, in the single line comment, once the comment ends here, and you want another at the end when your text end at the end, and you want another comment, then you have to start a new line for 2/, then you write the next line comment. So this is for single line, like you can see it says single line. So if you are using a 2 slashes, then it's going to be just a single line, and every new line you need to start with this 2 slashes. Then we also have the block comment. So for the block comment, it doesn't matter as much as the comment you can want to add, but just that you have the single, the slash, then the star to begin the comment. Now you end with a star and a slash. So irrespective of the number of lines that you have, so far as your comment is between the 2 stars, then you are okay. So this one is not for only a single line. It can be as many lines as possible, so far as they are between these stars. So a block comment can be on a single line, or it can be on a 3 line, it can be 4, it doesn't matter, so far as your comment is between your lines. Okay, so this is an example of a single line. I am a comment, then process submit form. Okay, then there's block comments. This is also example. So you have slash, star, then your comment comes, then when you finish you have your star and the slash. Okay, now if you are writing, for example, a comment for this entire 3 lines, then you can also write a slash, star, then you can end with a star, slash. So each of these ones, since they will be between the stars, then they will all be seen as a comment. So that's also another way of, if you are writing more than one, you can put all of them in between the 2 stars. If you like to, you can do them line by line. So that one is up to you. Okay. So now you will learn a simple code, then we'll create a file, then we'll demonstrate it with the comment and all this at once. Okay. Now we have variables. Now what are variables? Now every computer saves data on a memory. So if you be using the data in your code, in your processing of your program, you need to store those data on the memory. So each programming language have what we call variables, where is a memory location where we will be storing our data. So each data type that is specified, the size of memory that will be allocated. For PHP, you can specify the data type, but it is not necessary. When you put in the value, then it will detect what kind of data type it is. If you are familiar with other programming languages, then you know that in other programming language they have data like int, float, double, string, and the rest. But in PHP, you can also write int, then the variable name, but it's not necessary, because when you put in the value, PHP will know that it's an integer value, so it will reserve the appropriate space for that. Okay, so now how do we write our variables? So in PHP, all variables that you write should start with a $. Then you give the variable a name. Now variable names follows the same naming rules in other programming languages. You can't leave a space between the variable names. So I can't write variable, then I leave a space and write name. No, I will get a syntax error. Okay, now you cannot start a variable name with a number. So I can't write $1 and start my variable name. No, that one too, I will get a syntax error. Then we can use an underscore or a camel way of writing a variable name. The camel way is that you start with the first word being small letter, and the second word being word, the first letter being the capital, so that it will be able to be read for the person to know what the data is for. Okay, so for example, this is a camel way of writing of naming variable. So we start with variable and the V being small letter and the name, the N being capital letter. Then we can also use the underscore to separate the two words so that when someone is reading, the person will know what it's for. So here too, you can write variable, then you can also write underscore, then N, then small N, then name, just to separate the two words so that when someone is reading, the person can follow. Okay. So like I've explained, these are the rules of naming variables. So we must start with a letter. So you cannot start with a name with a number. So you can't have a special character. So you can't have @ exclamation and those things. You can't have them in the name. You can only have an underscore in it. Then can't have space between letters. So like I've explained, you can't have a space between letters. It must be declared before being used. So if you haven't declared, for example, this variable name, you cannot use it because you will also get an undefined variable error. You need to define it. You need to declare it before you can use it. And can't be a reserved word. Okay, so a reserved word is a keyword in the PHP or any other programming language. It's reserved, so you can't use it. So example, a class is a reserved word. We'll later on come to see what a class is. So if you write a class, then it's a keyword, so you cannot name a variable as class. Okay, so if you want to use a keyword class, then you have to add something to it to make it different from the keyword. So let's say, for example, if you want to, you must use class, then maybe you can have class 1 or you can add something to the class so that it will no longer be the keyword. Okay, then function is also a keyword, so you cannot have a variable by name function. If you do that, you get a syntax error. So variable names conventionally begin with lowercase letters to distinguish them from class names. So class names, even though you can have a lowercase of a class, is most or all programming languages normally advise that if you are naming a class, you're supposed to use a capital letter to differentiate it from variables. So variable names, you start with a lowercase, then with a class name, you start with a capital letter. Even though you can use lowercase in both and uppercase in both cases, you need to follow the programming rules. Even though you don't get a syntax error, it's not a good programming ethic to do that. So classes, the first letter starts with capital letters. Variable, the first letter starts with lowercase. Even though you can have the liberty to choose, but you need to follow the ethical way of programming. Okay, so lowercase, you name the variable you start the variable first letter with a lowercase, then the class, the first letter with a capital letter. So we'll later on see, we'll talk about class. I think it may be in the week 4 or so. So when we get there, you understand it. Okay, so like the camel case, like what I've explained. So you can start with the first word being lowercase, then the next word being capital to separate the two words. Okay, then you can also use the underscore also to separate them. So based on how you want it. Okay. Now, if you want to assign a value to the space that you reserve on the memory by the variable, then you use the equal to sign to assign a value. Okay, so you use the equal to sign, then you put in the value on the memory that you reserve. So let's take, for example, we have this variable name, first name. So this one is using the camel way of writing variable names. So first name, this is a variable name. So it's a space we reserve on the memory. Now, if we want to give store a variable, store a value there by name Godwin, then you have to write our equal to sign. So you have your equal to sign, then you specify the value inside. Now a test values are put in a double quotation because they are string. So string values are put in a double quotation. So either a double quotation beginning and ending or a single quotation beginning and ending. So it's either a single quotation or a double quotation, but whatever one you use, you have to end it. If you use a single quotation, you have to end with a single quotation. If you use a double quotation, you have to end with a double quotation. Okay. So test values are put in a double quotation. So here it means that I reserve a space on the memory and I'm calling it by name, first name. In that memory, I want to store a value by name Godwin. So anytime I want to have access to it and I can have it. Then this one says that reserve a space on the memory and name it by name, last name. And in that memory, I want to store this text there, Ashon. So anytime I want the value, I can access it by its name. Okay, so that's basically what it means. Now we are performing arithmetic operation. So these are the operators we use in PHP. So addition, we use plus. Okay, so like something like 1 plus 2, we use the addition operator. Then subtraction, we use the manuals. So 1 minus 2, we use the manuals operator. Then multiplication, we use the star. Okay, so this and this is almost like the same as we have, but take note of this multiplication, we don't use the S key, we use a star. So multiplication, we have star. So 1 times 2 is going to 1 star 2. Okay, then division with slash. So 1 slash 2, then we have our value. So for division, we use the slash key. Then for remainder, which is the modulus, we use a percentage. Okay, so remainder is when you divide, the number that will be left is what we call the remainder. So if you want to find the remainder of a number, then we use a percentage sign. Okay, so if you have 5 modulus 2 in the programming way, this is how you write it: 5 then percentage 2. So 5 modulo 2 is going to be 1 because 2 will go into 5 2 times, which is 4. Then it will be left with a remainder of 1. Okay, so example. So these are example. We have, like we've explained, that start your PHP script with less than question mark and PHP. Then you end the PHP script with less question mark then greater than. So this is the beginning of our PHP script, and this is the ending of our PHP script. Okay, so now we have examples. So we declared a variable name, we call it A, and we assign a value of A to it. Then we declared a variable name, we call it B, and we've assigned a value of 3 to it. So we declare a variable name, we call it C, and this C does addition of the values in our variable name A and the value in our variable name B. It adds the two. So the result, which will be at the right hand side, will be stored in our variable name C. And this B subtracts B from A. So when that one is also done, the value will be stored in our variable name D. Okay, now G also stores the multiplication of A and B. So like we said, multiplication in programming is star. So we have the variable name A times star variable name B. Okay, so the value stored in our variable name A multiply the value stored in our variable B, and the results will be stored in our variable name G. Okay, so this one too, we reserve a space and we name it F, so which will contain the value in the variable name A divided by the value in the variable name B, and the result will be stored in our F. And G is the remainder. So if you have the variable name in the value of our variable name A, the modulus of the value in our variable name B, and the result will be stored in our a variable name G. Okay. Now, before we demonstrate this one, we will learn how to display a result on the screen. So these ones all will be on the memory. So the C value is on its memory. The D value is on the memory. So we don't see the output. The E is on the memory. The F, the value is on the memory. And the G value is on the memory. Okay. So now if you want to display what is in the memory, to display a text, this is where we are now. To display a text, we will use the echo. So it's a Z word called echo. So this is a function already written in PHP that you need to call it anytime you want to display something on the screen. So if you want to display the content of a memory by name, which is the variable we've declared, we just use echo. Okay. So now, since you know what the echo does, it displays the content of a variable name or a text. Okay. So in this example, it's just displaying a text. Like I told you, texts are written in double quotation or single quotation. So when you have the echo with the text, it will just display the text on the screen. So if this code is run, it will just display my name is called Renashon. Okay. So the echo just displays something on the screen. So whatever you have, if it's a text, you just display it. If it's a variable name, it will display the value inside that variable name. Okay. So now let's test this one, then we display the results. So I copy it.
Okay, so this tutorial video is used on many of the courses that introduce PHP programs. So in this tutorial, the code is written in the folder week 2. So if you are seeing in the localhost, most of the testing, when we are testing the browser, you will see localhost /week 2 for the testing. But if you are still using the intro folder, and by putting the code in the index.php of your intro folder, so you can just write your script in that index.php in your intro folder. And for testing of your code, you use localhost /intro. So anytime you do any update, you only refresh this side to update your screen. Okay, so anytime you do a new coding in your index.php file in the intro folder, then just click on refresh to refresh your page.
I'll create a new file. Like I told you, if you use index.php, then you don't need to use the /index.php. When you call the folder name, the index file will automatically be run. So I'm going to save this as index.php in my with 2 folder in the exam. So Control Alt S if you are using Notepad++. If you are using any other editor, you should know how you save your file. So here our XAMPP is on our C drive. So we go to XAMPP, and like I told you, we store our PHP script in the htdocs. So you go to your htdocs. Now the htdocs, the folders you have for your project. So where you want to save your file, you click on that folder. So I have it in there with 2. Okay. So if your page is in the htdocs directly, you can put your PHP file here. So that one, when you have localhost, then / the name of the file, then the file will be. That if you have the file here, then the PHP script will run. But if you are creating a project, then it's advisable to create a folder for that project and put your PHP files there. So that one, you create a folder there, then you double click on it, open that folder, then you can name your files inside. So here my file name, I'm going to name it test.php so that I need to write /index.php, so it will automatically load it as my front page or my first page. Okay, so from the example, it says that you start a PHP with less than, then question mark, then PHP. Okay, Now, in some servers, if you don't close it, it will not give you an error, but some will also give you an error. So it's better you close it. Okay. So now we've closed our PHP. Okay. Now, if you are writing HTML in it too and you haven't closed your PHP, it will still say your HTML code as PHP. So that's why you also, when you start a PHP script, you need to close it. Okay. So now I'm going to paste the code that I copied from this. Okay. So this one already have the PHP file. Okay. Okay. So now, since we now know, so this is a single line commenting, like we've explained. So a single line commenting is here. If you want to write maybe block comment, so slash then star. Now, as you can see, since I haven't ended my comment, it has commented everything. You can see that the text has changed to green, which means it's color. It is a comment. So until I end the comment with a star slash, it will see all the text below them to be comments. Okay. So now I can just end my block comment here. Okay. Now when I end it, you can see that the text changed to the appropriate text colors. Okay, so now you can write your comment here. So maybe this is an example to demonstrate arithmetic operations. Okay, maybe such as addition, plus, minus, multiplication, division, etc. Maybe modulus. Okay, so that's the comment. Okay, so this is a block comment. So for block comment, you can write multiple lines. It doesn't, so far as your comment are between your star and these two stars, then there is no problem. Okay, so now we need to display our the operator value. So a plus b, we need to, this is actually stored in C. So we need to display the value which is in the memory. So like we've said, to display, we use echo. Okay, so now echo. Okay, now if we just echo C in HTML, if we want to start a new line, we have to use a P. You have to use a P element so that we know that it's a new line. But if you don't put it in the P element, then all the things you echo will all be on one line. So all the text will be on one line, and they may even be close to each other. So to display a text, then you can in a new line, so you can just use the echo. Then in the double, you create a double quotation. Then you write your P tag here. Okay. Now we join a text variable name to a text using the full stop. So if I want to join maybe I'm going to like a so in the normal HTML code, it's just going to less than p, greater than, then maybe 8, then plus 3, then maybe is equal to 11, then we close our p. Okay, now this is something we put those things there. Okay, so now we want this value to be the values stored on the memory on our variable, for our variables. So for that one, to do that, we have to join the name of the variable to your text, to your text, so that the value on the memory will replace the variable name. Okay, Now to join a variable or to join two variables or a text, we use a full stop. Okay, so in this case, to do that, we will have to close our string for which contains our p element. So we close our string which contains our p element. Like I told you, when you start a double quotation, you have to close it. So we close it here. Okay, now to join two tests or two variables or whatever it is, to join them, we use a full stop. So we have a full stop. Okay, now here we don't want the actual value, we want the variable name so that whatever is on the memory, that its value will be over here. So instead of writing it, we'll have dot our variable name. So our variable name is A. Then we continue with the sentence. So to continue with another text, then another full stop, then we begin a different text again. Okay, so now we have our P in the text joining our variable name, which the value in the memory will replace it. Okay, then we are continue with our string. So we have to have dots, then our double quotation. So here to, instead of the 3 value, we have to show the variable name instead. So we need to end our string here and join with our variable name. So here too we'll end our string here. The plus is a test. Here is not an arithmetic plus. The arithmetic plus is over here, the mass part. This is just the display, so it's supposed to be in the test. Okay, so we end our test with the second double quotation, then plus, then we join with our variable, the second variable, which is our B variable name. So we have a dollar, then B. Okay, now this part is also a sentence. So then we have by dots, then we join with the string text. So then equal to, the space equal to is also a text. This will replace it with our variable name, which is a C, which is the value which is stored in the addition of between the two numbers. So here, instead of 11, it's going to be the variable name. So we will close our quotation here. Then we close it. Then the name of our variable, which is C. Okay. Now this is also a test. So we have to join our variable name. Then we start a new test. Okay. Then that's it. Okay. So here in the, when you are using the PHP variable in the string, you just join those strings. So each string will be on their own. Then you join them with a dot. Then if you are continuing, you also have another dot again. So this is just a P tag. Then the value stored on your A memory will be here. Then this is a text, so plus will be here. Then the value stored on your B memory will be here. Then you have the equal to sign is a text. Then the value stored on your C variable name will be here. Okay, so we use the full stop to join two string or two or more variable names. So when you are joining them, you just use a dot and the name of the variable. Okay, now when we run this, we are going to get this one will be replaced by the value in that memory. So we have 8 here, then and the plus is a test, then so plus. Then this will be replaced by the value in the memory. We've stored 3 on the variable by then the memory by name B. So 3 will be over here. Then the equal to is a test, so it comes here. Then we stored in C. We did the addition of the value stored in A plus the value stored in B, and we put the value in C. So this will be the value of your C. Now, since we name our file as index.php, we don't need, when we come to our localhost page, so when we come to our localhost page, it's going to be /. So with 2 slash. Okay, now because we have this dot php here, we don't need to write index.php anymore. If it's any other file name, then it's going to be the name of the file.php. But if you write in the PHP index.php, which is the home page, you don't need to write it. It will load the index.php file for you. Okay, so it says we have a syntax error on line 10. So let's go to line 10 and see what the syntax error is. Line 10. Okay, so every syntax we need to close it the semicolon. So I left the semicolon, so that's why it's complaining over here. So most often, if it gives a line at maybe an index, so here this is line 10, but if you check and you don't see any error, check the top one, because it may be the top one that is causing the below line the error. And this is because I haven't ended my statement with a semicolon. Okay, so just like any other programming languages, we end a line of code with a semicolon to tell the compiler that you've ended your syntax. Other than that, it will be expecting that the rest are continuing. Okay, so we need to end this one. So we need to write our semicolon here to indicate that we've finished that syntax. Okay, so now we will refresh our page again. Okay, so as you can see, the value stored in our variable A is over here, then the class text value stored in our variable B is over here, then the equal to text, then the value stored in our C is over here. So when you change the values, so if I change this one to 5, to maybe 9, and this one to 2, and I run, so during the memory, the space in the memory values has changed. So here will be 9, here will be 2, and 9 plus 2 is still the same as 11. To demonstrate, let me this one to maybe 4, so that the value is going to be a little bit different. Okay, so here I will have 9 4 is what, 13. So around, okay, 4. So it added the value in our memory variable memory A, then to your variable name B, and the result is stored in our variable name C, which we display with the echo syntax. Now we wrote this in the P, so that if we have another one here, it will be in the new line. If you don't put them in the P, then the next one will continue over here. Then the third one will continue in that order. But if you put them in the P tag, they all be on the new line, just like we write paragraphs. Okay, so now we can do that for the other ones as well. So here, you can just copy this one, and after doing the arithmetic operation, you just display the result. So here is going to be manual. So, and the value, this one is for D. Okay, then here is going to be multiplication, so we can use the X for the test for multiplication. Then that one is the value for E. Then here we have division, so that one you can, if your key has a division key, you can use the division key for the test, but if not, you can use a slash. Okay, then that value is for F, so F, so we could show the value of F. Then we have that of the modulus, so you can have modulus or mod. So of this, then that one is in G, so we have it in G. Okay, now since they are all in the P tag, they all be in a different line. So now when we run, okay, so as you see, we have 9 minus 9. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 divided by 4 is 2.25. Now 9 modulo 4 is 1, because 4 goes into 9 2 times. There will be a remainder. Okay. So now we didn't write the slash index.php because it's an index.php file. So automatically it's going to load that page. But if you write it to, you still get the same result because it will still fetch the content of that file. Okay. So if your file is not index.php, then your file name will just come. So here, like I said, after the localhost, it's going to be the path of your file. So if your file is in the folder, then the folder name here. If it's in another folder, then the chart folder. Then if it's in another folder, next folder until the last will be the file. Okay. But if it is index.php file that you are running, you don't need to add the file name because in that folder it will fetch it as a page. Okay, so that's it. So in summary, we write a PHP HTML element with a PHP as well, and there are a number of ways of doing that. You can write the HTML different and just start a new PHP tag in it and just display your PHP elements inside, or you can just join them as a text. Okay, so you can join text by using the plus key. So when you have one variable plus the other variable, it will join them together. We call joining the text together. So then the text will be joined together. Now remember, when you are joining a text, so you need to leave the appropriate space so that the text will not be next to each other. Okay. Now there is also another way of displaying the value of a variable without using the dot. But that one, it makes the code to be not so much clean. For example, I can write echo, then I can put everything in this single double quotation. So I can write P, then $A, okay, then plus, then $B is equal to $C, okay, or then I end my P. Okay, so I have put everything in the double quotation. This will work because in the dollar variable name, it will display the value of it. Then $B, it will display the value of your B. Then $C, it will display the value of your C. Okay, this will work, but this doesn't make the code so neat when somebody is following. But this, you can see that it indicates that this is a variable. You can see that the color is different from this. They are all black, so you don't know which one is a text and which one is a variable name. But this one, you can see that this is a variable names and the black ones are text. Okay, so even though you can do it this way, which for you it may be easy for you because if you think you may be confused with the dot, but dot is not anything. When you are joining one string to the other, you just use the dot. And if you want to join another string to it too, then after the end you add another dot, then you continue. You add another dot, then you continue. Then remember, all syntax are supposed to be ended with a semicolon. So when you finish your syntax, you end them with a semicolon. When you finish, you end with a semicolon and the other. So if I run this, I'll get two of this and this being the same. But this is just to show you that you can also write it this way. But I will recommend this way because this one makes the reading of your code very neat and easy for people to follow which ones are good and which ones are text. Okay, so as you can see, this end are the same. But here we put the variables in the double quotation. So even though it works, I will recommend you separate the variable names from the text like I have done over here. Okay. Now there is also another way of writing the same thing. In that way, when you are displaying HTML, you write HTML code. Then this means that you need to close your PHP script. Then you write HTML. Then if you want to write another PHP like a variable, you want to echo a variable, then you start with a new PHP tag. Then you close it. So for example, if I want to use the HTML approach and put mine wherever it's a variable name that I want to display, then I need a PHP to echo it. So that one I'll start with a new PHP. So here I can end my PHP over here. I can start with my HTML code, so I can write my P. Okay, now here, because it's a variable name and I have to echo it, then I want to start a new PHP. So I can have PHP, then echo, then my variable A, then I can end PHP. Okay, now I continue with my test class. Now because I have to display this value for this one, I need a PHP script. So that one, so I can write my PHP echo, then my variable name is P, then I end it. Okay, now I continue my HTML text, which is equal to, then the C, because I need my C and it's on the memory, I need PHP script to display it from the memory. So that one, then I need PHP, then PHP echo, then your C, and semicolon to end that one. Then you close your PHP, then you end with your P tag. Okay. So here you are separating your PHP and the from the HTML. So we have P. This is a text which is in a paragraph. So that one you don't need PHP for them. But to display the content of your variable name with the echo, this is a PHP script. So you need to start with a script, then you end. This is a PHP script, then you end. This is a PHP, you need to start with a PHP script, then you end. So once you finish that, the rest are also PHP. So you need to start the new PHP over here. Okay, so that's it. So this one also works, and in this tool, if you are working on a bigger project, I will recommend this one, that you separate HTML from PHP so that the HTML code will be on each row. And where it's a must, you need to use a PHP. Then you start with the PHP scripts. Then you end your PHP script. Then you continue with your HTML. Okay. So when we get to the for loop and the rest, we will see also another example. So this makes your code neat to separate your HTML from your PHP. So at the time you need your PHP, then you just start a new PHP script. Then you do whatever you want to do for that PHP. Then you end it. Then you continue with your HTML. So wherever you need the PHP script, then you just start a new PHP script. Then you write your syntax inside. Then you close, you finish it. Then you continue with your HTML. So wherever you need the PHP script, you start the new PHP scripts. Then you echo. Then you write your syntax. So whatever syntax you need to write. When you are done, then you finish. You end the PHP. Then you finish with your HTML. Okay. So this approach and this approach, they are neat codes, but this one is more neater, so that you can separate, or is neater, so that you can separate the HTML tag from PHP. So when someone is reading your code, it also makes it easier. So it knows these ones are HTML, those ones are PHP. And if you separate the HTML from the PHP, you can see that you ended a tag. For example, in this one, you see that when I click on the P, it shows that this ends over here. But if you write them in the PHP, then you can, when you click here, you can see that it's not showing the ending here. Okay. So in the bigger project, I will recommend you separate your HTML from the PHP. In the examples I'll be doing the subsequent weeks, I will be separating. I'll write an H code. So I have to train you for the working environment, so that if you are in a big team, people will like, your other programmers will like you because of the way you write your code in a neat way, so that when they are editing your code, it will be easier for them. So I'll teach you the right thing. So I'll use the right one, the neat one. So since you are beginning, you should get used to it. Okay. So in our subsequent lesson, we write HTML code from our PHP. So we write the HTML code, and when we want to write our PHP, we start the PHP beginning tag, then write our code inside, then we end with our PHP closing tag. Okay, so that's it. So you can do that for this one. You can change this one using the pure HTML with a PHP, and this display too, you can change it. So this one too, you can change it, and this one too, you can change it, just to familiarize yourself with this way of writing your display. Okay, so now we are done with that part, so we can continue. So if I run that one too, we still get the same result. Okay, so as you can see, they are all the same. Okay, so that's it. So we continue with the lecture. So display information, we talk about it using the echo. Then for string, when you are using the string, you use a double quotation for the string. Then every syntax that you know is supposed to end with a semicolon. So in this example, it just display a text on the screen. My name is Coordination. It is fun learning PHP. Okay, so you can just copy this one, paste, then we run that one. Okay, so we are done with the arithmetic. So we can just close it, put this one there. Okay. Now remember, on the page, sometimes the double quotation is not the same as your computer, so you may have to change the double quotation if it's not the same character as the double quotation of your computer, and that when you run it, it will not see it as a double quotation, so you will get an error. Okay. So if you run this, then it will display. So my name is Coordination. It is fun learning PHP. So like I told you, if you haven't put them in the P, they will join to each other. So this is the one that if you don't put your sentences in the P, then they join in each other. So here, since it's more than one text, put them in the P. So, and put them in the P tag. So we have the P tag here. Okay, so when we save, and we so as you can see, a new line. Okay, so okay, so this I've explained that you can write PHP in the HTML. So here you can have your HTML page. So far as .php, and that you can include your PHP script. So you just have your HTML. You just have your normal way of writing the HTML. That's why we use HTML. We revise our HTML for the course before. Okay. Okay. So like I told you, sometimes the double quotation is not the same. So we just okay. So as you know, we start our HTML. We have our head, we have our body, we have our P. Then this is where we only display our PHP script. So you start your PHP, then you can write your PHP scripts inside it. Then when you are done, you end it, and you continue with your HTML tag. Okay, so here when you run this one, you have page. Okay, for that page with HTML code, but PHP. Okay. We joining test. You can join test using the dot. Okay, so for example, if we have test 1, test 2, test 3, then turning test 1 and test 2, then we have it. Okay, like I've also explained to you that when you are joining a test, it's a more test, it's appropriate for you to leave a space if they are going to join, so that the two tests will not be next to each other. So in this case, you can see that there is a space before the end, so that when you join this one, before after the chain, the A capital will not join exactly your distance. So even here, there should be full stop, so that when you join it, you start with a capital A. Okay, other than that, then this is supposed to be small a, but that is just a demonstration. Okay, so we can also copy and paste this one, then we can also demonstrate it. So you replace all this. So you should replace. So the double quotation which does not match with your machine, just replace them. So now I'm going to explain. So here we have a test. We declare the variable test underscore 1, and it has this value. My name is coordination. Okay. Then test 2 has this value, and I am 20 years. Okay. So like I said, if you are using capital letter, then here to make it a clean sentence, then here can be full stop, then end. Or if you don't want and you want it to continue, then you just close. Then this one small a, so it become end. I am 20 years old, and you have your full stop. Okay. So now, if you don't leave this space here, so let's don't leave this space, then we'll run it, then you see, then you change it so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. So now, to join these two strings, we use a dot. So this test will join this test, and we are putting it inside our variable test underscore 3. Okay, we can also directly display it using the echo test underscore 1 dot sn. They all work the same way, but if you want to store it in the memory, then you declare a variable, this variable, then you assign the result of this one inside it. Then later on you can display it if you want. Okay. Now when we save our code and we run, this one is going to be my name is coordination, and so here there is no spaces. So after the G, immediately our A will start. So that's what you should take. That's what I want to demonstrate. That if you are doing two strings where there will be a space, put the appropriate space there, so that when after they join, the space will still be there. So we have more. We have name, J, then age, 18. So we have your name is Kofi J, which will replace the value, and you are 18 years old. Okay. So now if I run this code, okay, so my name is coordination. Okay, so this is what I want to demonstrate to you. Now because I didn't leave a space after I've joined, I can either leave a space after your G or before your A. So however you want to leave the space is up to you, but there should be a space between the G and the A. So you can either put a space here, using a space bar, or you put the space here. So anywhere you want to put the space, that one you have to decide. So here I put the space after my G. So when I refresh, that the space is also character, so the space is over here. Okay. I can as well do this one. I can as well put the space here. So after joining, the space will still be there. So any of them works. So open words. Okay, so either you put it here or put it after your object. So any of them works. Okay. So that's fine. So what you should know that we use a dot to join string, and if you are going to join with another string, you have to use a dot. If you are going to join with another string, you have to use a dot. Okay. So a string are also written double quotation. Then all syntax we end them with a semicolon. We are done with one syntax. So I'll just get already. Creating your first PHP script, I've already explained it, so we've already done that. Okay, so I'm going to jump. Okay, welcome to well developed. This will display this text on the screen. So this will display this text on the screen. I want now you start your Apache. So you start your Apache server. When we get to PHP, we start with MySQL. When we get to our database, we will start our MySQL. But for now, we are only developing the PHP script. So you have to start your server by clicking on it. Start Apache. Okay. We've done this one already. And I'll show you how you run your code. So here, localhost and the path to your PHP file. Okay, so PHP file is in the folder. The names of the folders it is inside. The last one will be the file name. If it's index.php, when you get to the last folder, you don't need to write /index.php. Okay. Okay, so like I've explained, so localhost / the folder where your file is, and if there are multiple folders, you list all of them, and the last one will be your file name. If the file name is index.php, you don't need to write the file name because it will automatically fetch it. Okay, so that we've already talked about it. So now we are on the control structures. Now if you are used to other programming languages, then you already know this. Just that we have to write it in PHP this time. Now, control structures are normally if statements, and they help us to make our computers or our program have some way of reasoning. So you compare things, then based on the results, then we, the programmer, will write a code to perform a particular task. So, for example, those of you in Africa where we have mobile wallets. So in the mobile wallet, when you dial a particular the short code, and for example in Voda Cash it is *110#. Then in MTN Momo it is *170#. So when you dial that one, you can see that there are a list of options there. So in the list of options, have you ever wondered how they implement it when you choose a particular option? It is the if where the topic where we are is what they use, so that they will know which option you choose and what to do next. So it's the same way we will be doing in our coding. So we'll see how you can do that. How you can write your code so that you have your statement. And so if we check a condition, if the condition is true, then in the curly brackets we will write our code. So you, the programmer, you decide what to do when the condition is true, and that one is up to you. So that one, I don't know what task will be performed, but I'll show you the skeleton so you know how to check if a condition is true. Then you write your code for what should be done when the condition is true. So we have one alternate. One alternate is that you are checking only for one option. So if that option is not, if it's not, nothing happens. Then that one we use if. Then in the brackets we have our expression there. We will later look at how you write your expression. So we have if, then you have your expression here. So if this expression is true, then whatever you put between these curly brackets will be executed. So you, the programmer, you put the between the curly brackets, you write a syntax based on what you are doing. So the task you are performing and the code you will have to write between the curly brackets. And this is only one alternate. So if it is only this, then you do something. Okay. Then we also have two alternatives. So two alternatives is that if it is not this one, then it is that, then it's that one. So that one, if it is this one, that's if the condition is true, the expression, if this expression is true, then you write a code between the curly brackets. What must be done if the condition is true? Now the else, the else curly bracket, if this condition is not, you write the code what must be done if the condition is not true. Okay, so once you've done that one, you can write your code. Now we also have multiple alternatives, which is more than two. So alternatives which are more than two, like 3, 4, and the rest, then we use the else if. So the first one is going to be if. So the last one is going to be else. Then between the second till the last, they all be else if. So between the first till the last, all the rest is going to be else if, else if, else if, else if, else if. So if it's only 3, we have if, then else if, then the last one is going to be else. If it's 4, we have if, then else if, then the third one is going to be else if, and the fourth one is going to be else. So always the last one is else. Okay. Then you write whatever you want to perform, you put it in your curly bracket. Okay, so the first one is going to be if. So if the first condition is true, whatever you put here will be executed. If it is not true, it moves on to the next if, next else if. So it moves on here. So check if it is true, whatever you put in your curly bracket will be executed. Okay, now if the second top is not true, it moves on to the third top. So you check if this condition is true. So else if the condition is true, it will execute whatever code you put over here. So it will continue, it will continue, it will continue. Now if none of the above, if all the top ones are not true, then it will come to the else, the last option. So the last option will only be executed if none of the top conditions are true. So if none of the top conditions are true, the last one will be executed. So now we are going to see how you write these expressions. How you write the expressions. Okay. Now to write the expression, you need to know these operators. So you need to know how you use them. So to check if something is the same or equal to, we use two double equal to sign. Remember, it is two double equal to sign. Now, if you use one equal to sign, it's going to assign what is at the left to the right hand side. So that one is always going to be true because the assign will be successful. Okay, so remember to compare if what you have at the left is equal to what you have at the right, it is two equal to sign that you have to use. So that one we use two equal to sign. Okay, so you write an equal to sign, then you write another equal to sign again. Now, to check if something is not equal to something, then we use the exclamation, then equal to. Okay, so not is for exclamation. So if in programming, if you want to check if something is not something, we use the exclamation. So for example, if you want to check if something is false, then you can use not then true. So we have the not, then the boolean variable. If you have a variable which is true or false. So if you want to check if it's not true, then you can just use the exclamation, then the variable name. So if it's not true, so the exclamation just make it not true. Okay, so the exclamation is for not. So not equal to, we use the exclamation, then equal to. Then less than, we use a less than sign. Less than or equal to, the sign can, the less than or greater than sign comes first before the equal to. So less than or equal to, we have the less than before the equal to. Remember, before the equal to, if you write equal to less, you get a syntax error. The less than or greater than comes before the equal to. So less than or equal to, you have the less than, then the equal to. Greater than, you have the greater than key. Then greater than or equal to, you have the greater than, then the equal to. So once again, remember, the greater than comes before the equal to. Okay. Now, to check if something is or means if it's not what is at the left, it can also be what is at the right. So far as one of them is true, then it means the condition is true. So or means at least one of them. So if one of them is true, then the condition is true. So that's the or. The end means both all of them must be true. So end. So if you want to check if what all of them are true, then we use the end. So end means that this and this are true, then we use the end. If one of them is true, then we use the or. If it's greater than or equal to, we use a greater than or equal to sign. If it is greater than, just the greater than sign. Greater or equal to, greater than the equal to will come. Then less than or equal to, less than the equal to sign will come. Then less than sign. If something is not equal to, exclamation, then equal to, we use the two equal to sign. Okay, so now let's use this example to write a grading system for a school. So in the school, a grading system, from if you get A, C, and above, you get a grade A. Now, if you get 75 to 79 point something, then you get B plus. If you get 70 to this, you get B. 65 to this, you get C plus. 60 to this, you get C. 55 to this, you get D. Then 50 to 54, you get this. Now below 50, you get E. Okay, so let's use this concept. Let's use this concept to create a logical lesson, so that based on the value of the score, then we'll display the appropriate grade for it. Okay, so we are going to code here. So we can start with our HTML tag if we want to mix them. So we can write our HTML, we close our HTML, then we have our head. Okay, we close our head, then we have our title. So the name of the title, we can give it maybe grading system. Then we end our title. Okay, then we come to our body, then we end our body. Okay, so now we can start our PHP here. PHP. Okay, now on a normal circumstance, we need to have a test input where the person will enter the score. We haven't gotten to a form, so we are going to hard code the value. Hard code means that you assign a value to it by in your code. So you are not taking any value from the user. When we get to the form processing, then we can modify this code so that there will be a text box for the person to enter the score. But we haven't gotten to form processing yet, so we just hard code the score. So here we just create a variable. We can call it score, then we can put a value inside, maybe 79 for example. Okay, so now we want to check and the grade for this one. So when we are using this logic, okay, and there are many ways of writing this logic. It's better to start up. So you check if it is above. So if it is 80 and above, we make it grade A. So when we validate the first one and it is not 80 and which means below 80, we check if it's that score is 70 and above. Okay, so if it's 70 and above, since it didn't pass here, it means it's below 80. So if it is 75 and above, it means it is below 80, but it's above 75. So it can be 75. If your grading system accepts decimal, then it can be 75 point something, or 76, or 77, or 78, or 79. Okay, so yeah, it will be within this range. So we just use the lowest one in each of the ranges. So here we check if it is more than 80. If it's more than 80, the grade is A. Now if it didn't pass, if here is false, it means it's below 80. So we now check the second top. So if it's 17 above, it means it falls here. Now if it doesn't pass here, then we move on to the next one. So if it's 17 above, then it means it falls here. Then if it doesn't pass here, we move on to this one. If it's 65 and above, it means it falls here, it will come here. Now if it doesn't pass here, it moves here. If it's 60 and above, it comes here. If it doesn't pass here, it moves here. If it's 55 and above, it falls here. So we write the code to display our B class code. Now if it doesn't pass here, then it falls here. So all this one will be else if. And if it's 50 and above, it falls here. So we display our grade D. Now anything else which is below 50, will display our variable E. So this one is going to be if, this one is going to be else 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 if, and this one is going to be else. So like I explained, the first one is if and the last one is else, and the ones between them are all else if, else if, else if. Okay, so that's how. So we are going to write our script. So we have if our score is greater than or equal to. Now we have to include the other ones here. So 8, if you write it greater than 80, it means 80 is not included. So it should be greater than or equal to, so that if it's where it's starting from, if it's also the value, then that will also be true. So we need to use greater than or equal to. So if it's, for example, if it's 80, 80 equal to 80, so here it will be true. If it's 81, then it also falls in. So if our score is greater than or equal to 80, so this is our first checking, our first condition. Okay, so here we can close our PHP here and start a new PHP here, so that we can write our HTML in between. Okay, so all these ones are PHP scripts. Now we need to close it, and we need to start a new PHP to continue, because maybe we want to write in our HTML this. So you can write P, okay, then grade A, okay. Of course, you can also write echo. You can also write it this way, but like I told you, I want to start teaching you how to write neat code. So you can write the same as echo, okay, P, then grade A. So you can write it this as well, okay. But like I told you, I want to start to teach you how you separate your HTML code from your PHP, so that it makes your code nicer and neat. So in that case, where you are going to write your HTML, you need to close your PHP, then you start the other PHP over here, then you write your HTML inside. So here we just write P, then grade A, the end of P. Okay. Now, this is one alternate. So if you don't put else, if the value is like this one, because it is not less than, it's not greater than 80, nothing will be displayed. This is just one if. Okay, so here if I run this one, you see that nothing. Okay, so you see that nothing is displayed because it's not true. It didn't fall. It's not true. So it didn't fall between here. But if I write maybe 81, which makes it true, so it will be executed. This part will be there. Okay. So in the grading system where there is only, if you get 70 and above, it is pass. If you get below 70, it is fail, or maybe below 60, or below 60 is fail. 60 and above is pass. Then here you can just write maybe 60. So if it's greater than, okay, so here is 60. So maybe our score is 80. So it's greater than or equal to 60. Our grade is going to be pass. So here is two alternatives. If it's not there, it is that. So that one we use the else for the last one. So here we have else. Okay. And because we want to write our HTML, we need to close our PHP, then open a new PHP here. Then between them we can write our HTML. So we have HTML and the code is filled. And end our HTML. Then we save it. Okay. So in this condition, if it is not this condition, if it is this condition, whatever we put between the curly brackets will be executed. So if here it is 80, so because 80 is more than 60, it will pass here, so it will be passed. But if we change maybe 50, then because 50 is not greater than 60, it comes here, so the grade is going to fail. So let's run this one. Okay, so it's passed. So let's change it to 50. Change it to 50. Okay, so as if this one, two alternatives. So in the actual grading system, it is multiple alternatives. So that one, so let's start business. So here it says that if it is 80 and above, if it's 80 and above, the grade is A. So we have grade A. Okay. Then it says that, so else if, so you have else if our score is greater than or equal to 75, then it says that one, the grade, I think it says is B plus also. So if it's 75 and above, our grade is going to be is B plus. So our grade is B plus. Okay. Then 70 and above is B. So we can just copy this one and paste it here. So 70 and above, it is B. Okay. Then 65 and above is C plus. So 65 and above is C plus. Okay. Then 60 and above is C. So 60 and above is C. Then 55 and above is B plus. So 55 and above is D plus. Then 50 and above, it is D. So 50 and above, it is D. Then else, it is C. So S is if below 50, anything else is below 50. So that one is grade D. that one you have big. Okay, let's check if the grading system. So 60, 80 and above A, 65, 75 and above B, B plus, 70 and above B, 65 and above C plus, 65 and above is B plus, 50 is, then below is C. Okay, so that's it. So now we will run our page. Now remember that our score is 50, so it will fall over here. So it's supposed to give us D. Like I told you, whatever you want to execute, you put it in there. When the condition is true, you put it in a curly bracket. So it will fall between these curly brackets. So here, so you can see we've gotten our grade D. If I change my value to maybe 70, change my score value to 70. So my score value is 70, so grade B. Okay, so when we get to form, we may modify this code so that there will be an input box. So the person will enter the score, then there will be a submit. So when the person submits, we'll write our PHP script to do the validation and check which condition that score matches. Then we'll output our grade. So that one we can modify this grading system when we get to a form. But this is just a demonstration for you for the if control statement. So we can continue. Okay, so this is an example. So here in this code, they use purely PHP, but in the practice, as I'm demonstrating to you, you have to use the actual HTML and the PHP for you to start to learn it. So like I've explained, the explanations are over here. So if score is greater than or equal to 80, so it's read score is greater than or equal to 80. So I've explained everything. So if it's true that your score is greater or equal to 80, whatever you put in the curly brackets will be executed in that order. Okay, so I've already explained this one. So now we are on the switch. We're on the switch statement. So what is a switch statement? Now, the switch is also a control statement where we use it to check something and make a decision or take an action. So here in the switch, we use a case. We use a case for our validation instead of a if. So the value will be over here. So we pass the value in our switch. So we have to list multiple options, which will be the case value. So case, then the value, in case it is this value, then semicolon. Then you write the code, what should happen in case this value matches the case, or the case you put here. Then once you write your statement, you break. So you write a break once it is this case. When after executing your code you write inside, then you break, you exit your switch. So the break will make it exit the switch if the case is found and the code that you write has been executed. So if it is not this case, it move on to the next case and check if the value matches the value matches that case. So if it matches, whatever code you put to be executed, and then you have to add a break so that it exits your switch. Now if you don't add a break, it will continue. So you add a break so that after the case the case value match with your value, then it will exit the switch. So you continue case, and its value, the compared value, until you get to the last one. So the last compare value after 8. So the last compare value, you also write your code, then you break. Then we have the default. Default means that just like we have the else, default means that if it's none of the above cases, then we will execute the default. So default is for executing a statement in case none of the cases matches with the value you put over here. So an example, we have this syntax. Year is equal to 1. So we pass our value over here. So here in this case, our value is 1 over here. So we'll compare all the cases. So in case the value for this one is 1, we'll write that we are a freshman. Then we break. So we exit the switch. Now in case the value of the year it is 2, then we write that we are in level 200. Then we break. If it is case 3, level 300, then you break. It is 4, it's a final year. Then default means the year is more than 4. So maybe there's some way the value is 5, 6, and the rest. And default is incorrect here because we are expecting from 1 to 4. So any other value, we put it in the default so that it will be executed. It is incorrect. Okay. So this is an example. So then sometimes here can also be an expression, like true or false expression. So in the true or false or expression that gives a value. So the value of the expression is what we use to check the cases. So in some cases, when you write the expression, the value of the expression, if the expression is either true or false, then the case will be true or false. So if it is true, then you write your case. If it's true or false, which will be the result of the expression. If you have case true, and you write your syntax, then you break. Then the default means maybe it is false. So then you write what should be happening for the default. Okay. Then if it returns a particular value, the expression returns a particular value, then you can have a case. So let's say, for example, we want to write a code that check if a number is an even number. So in an even number example, we know that when 2 divides even numbers, it leaves no remainder. So we can use the modulo concept. You can use a modulo concept to check if a number is even or not. So to check if a number is even or not, you just have the number, the modulo 2 of that number. So if the modulo 2 of that number is 0, then it means it is an even. Then anything else we can put it in the default. So that one, it means it's going to be an odd. So in this case, let's say num is equal to, let's say, 6. Okay. Then we can write our switch. So we have our switch. Okay. Then num modulus 2. Okay. So this one is going to return a value, which will be the remainder. So the value, we check the case of the value. So in case it is 0, in case the result here is 0, then it means there was no remainder, so it is an even. So we can echo, so we can write our HTML in it, or echo, however you want to write it. So we can say, then we can have num, okay, is an even. Okay, then we can have p. Okay, so whatever number is here, if it is even, you echo the number value, then you write even. Then you need to break. From the case. Then default, which means if it's anything else, which is not, if it's not 0, which is anything else which is not 0, then we will write that it is odd. Okay. So if it's anything else, is odd. Okay. So that will be the switch. So it will check and get the value of this expression. So norm modulo 2. So it can be 0, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be any remainder. But if it is let's say the remainder is 0, since it's 2, we are dividing by 2, then the alternatives are either remainder 0 or 1. But if you are using any other remainders, modulos can be more 0, 1, 2, and the rest. But for 2, it's going to be only the remainder can be 0 or 1. If we are dividing by 2. So in this case, if the remainder is 0, it means 2 was able to divide. So that one is an even. So anything else which will be in the default is an odd. So when we run this code, okay, so we change 5, then we save and run again. We can now if you want to use true or false, then here too we can check if it is true that the remainder is 0. So here is a comparison lesson. So the value of here is going to be true or false. So here, in case the value is true, okay. So in case the value is true, then it's going to be this. Then the false is meant when it is false, then it's going to be this. So here, if your expression gives true or false, then your case is going to be, you check if it's true or false. Okay, so you check for 1, then the default will be the order. Okay, so if it's an expression, then if the expression returns true or false, then that should be the case. If the expression returns a value, then the cases will be the possible values that can match. Then you write the code which will be executed if there is a match. Okay, so now here to execute this one, it's going to the default. Okay, and if I change to 6, then it will be true because the now will be 0. So that's it. Continue. So I will explain this one already. So we are on a different topic. Our last topic is looping. So what is a loop?
So sometimes when you are writing a code, you need to execute something a couple of times. You need to execute something a couple of times. So in that case, we use loops so that we don't need to write it again and again and again and again. For example, if you are designing a table that will have 100 rows which are the same columns. Then, if you are using an ordinary HTML, you need to write each of the TRs 100 times. But if you are using a PHP, you can use a loop so that you write the rows just a few lines of code that will be repeated 100 times. So that one, the few lines of code, it will just repeat the code for the rows 100 times. Then you can get your 100 rows. What about 1,000 rows? Then in the loop, you can write it, you can display 1,000 rows. But if you are using an ordinary HTML, then you need to write all these 100 rows. Okay, so in this example, there are 3 loops. We have the while loop, we have the for loop, and we have the do while loop. So we consider one after the other. Okay, so in the while loop, the syntax is written this way. You write a while here, then you write a condition statement. Then for the first time, the condition statement must be true in order for these curly brackets, what you put there should be to be executed. So that for the first time, your condition here must be true at least once. Then you write a code that will be updating your control variable
So it will be updating your control variable that makes this condition true in your curly bracket. So at the point in time, it will make the condition statement to be false. Then you will also write your code that will be executed whilst the loop is going on. So based on what you are doing and the code that you write between these curly brackets, okay. So note, you must initialize the variable that will make the condition to be true, like I have said. So you have a variable which has been initialized that has made the condition to be true at least for once, then it will be executed once. Then in the loop, you also have to be updating this variable so that at a particular point in time, the variable will make it false. So let's say, for example, you want to write a program that prints 110. So it will output 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 10. So in this case, it says that when you are writing a loop, we have a while loop. So we have a while, then your condition comes here, then you have your curly bracket to write your code if the condition here is true. And first you need to initialize a variable that will make this condition to be true. So we have our I, and normally in looping, our control variables normally we use I for the word iteration. I for iteration, like repetition. So normally most looping you'll be seeing the control variable being declared as I. So here we are starting from 1, so our I can be from 1. Okay. Now our condition will be I should be less than, so I should be less than 10. Less than or equal to 10, because we are starting from 1 to 10. So while our I is less than or equal to 10, the loop will continue. So here it means the loop will continue from 1, because this condition 1 is less than 10, so it will continue. Then we need to increase our I. So on the second loop, our I becomes 2. Then we increase it, so our third loop, our I becomes 3. Then we increase it on our fourth loop, then our I becomes 4, and so on until we get to our I being 11. Then 11, it will be out of this loop because 11 is not less than 10. So in this case, we just output. Okay, so like I told you, when you are writing HTML, you just close your PHP, then you write a HTML, then you start the PHP. So here I write P, then I will echo my I. So echo my I value. Okay, then I finish my PHP, then I finish my HTML tag. Now, in order for me not to get an infinite loop, an infinite loop is a loop that never ends. So it keeps on looping. In this case, your program may freeze because the lower code will not be executed, because the loop will continue going, because the condition never gets to false. Okay. In order to not to get it, you need to update your control variable. So this one, we need to update our I so that it increases at each loop. So to increase, we use a class plus. So the variable name, then class plus, will make it increase by 1. So at any loop, plus plus will increase it by 1. So in the first loop, our I is 1, so we printed it. So then we increase it by 1, becomes 2. Then it goes to our second loop. So our second loop, our I will be 2, so it will display it here. Then we increase it by 1 again, so it becomes 3. So our third loop, our I will be 3. Then it's been displayed here. Then we increase it by 1, becomes 4. For our fourth loop, when it comes here, our I will be 4, so it will display 4. Then it will continue, and then when it is 10, it will display 10. 10, then we add 1, it becomes 11. So when it comes here again, 11 is not less than 10, so then the loop will end. So you execute it, then it exits the loop. Okay, so then when we save this one and we run, then see the output. Okay, so as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now to demonstrate the one I'm talking about for the rows, number of rows. So the number of row example, if you have a table with maybe 100 columns, then instead of you to be writing each of the rows, you can put them in the loop. So for example, you can have table, then with if you don't want, if you are not specific with to take the entire width, then you can leave it. Then in order for you to see the border, you can give a border of 1. Okay. Then we close our table here. Okay. As you know, if you are familiar with HTML, now each of the rows are placed between the table tag. So we have row, we use a TR tag. So TR is for a row. Then the columns, you use a TD tag. And you have the columns. Okay. So now let's say for example, we are writing a table which has maybe 2 or 3 columns. So here, if the number of columns are going to be, let's say 10, then we can have maybe here we write our HTML. So we have our TR here, then we close our TR here, then we can have our number of columns. So we have maybe it's made of 3 columns or 4 columns, and can have TD. Then the first column can have maybe a width of maybe let's say 30%. Okay, then you can close it. So you can put whatever you want to put over here. So you can write I, or it doesn't matter. But if this will be maybe printed on the paper, so there will be a filling, then the space, there is no need for a space there. So we have here, then our second column can be maybe 40. Then our third column can be 30. Okay. So here, if you are not using a PHP script and for a loop, then you are writing 10 rows, then you need to write this 10 times. So of course you can copy then paste 10 times, but that will also take a longer space on your code. So in the programming that you'll be repeating some things, you can use a loop for them. For example, when we get to the form, we have the select option. The drop down, maybe you are displaying the years. Maybe you are displaying the years. So in the years, you have probably from the current year. At the time this video was finished, 2020. So maybe I displaying from 2020 to the last maybe 100 years. Then you don't need to be coding all the options. You can use a for loop to start from 100 and end at the last 100 years. Okay, so that's when the loop becomes handy. Okay, so in this example, we are going to display 10 rows in our table element. Okay, so now when I save and I run, okay, so now it is small because we haven't given there's no nothing here. So for you to say it, we can give our table maybe a width, so you can say it there. So if I make it width of maybe 100%, it will take the entire width. So if I give it 100% width, then you can see. Okay, now space in it too. Then I can give it a path. So in that case, so I can write a CSS to padding my TD so that there will be space inside. So I can have, okay, then I can have TD. And if I want a space to be between them, I can have padding maybe 10 pixels. Okay, so all the TDs will have a padding of 10 pixels, that there will be electric space inside. Okay, so you can see I've created a padding inside. So let's assume you want to, your boss has asked you to produce an automated table that they will print in order to fill a form. So in that case, the first row, if there will be heading, those can be handwritten. So if there will be an heading, this one can be my first row. So I can give them an heading. So let's say if here maybe name will be here. Okay, if my heading here will be name, and my heading here may be for maybe address. Okay, and my heading here may be maybe phone number. Okay. Now remember, with tables, you only need one row to have the dimensions, because the tables always the columns have the same dimension. So in this case, we don't need this width for the columns, because the top one already has those width. Here we can just okay. So in this case, our first row will be of this heading. Our subsequent rows will be the ones we say if one is less than or equal to 10. So we have 10 extra rows. Okay. So if you are not using PHP, you need to copy this one, paste them 10 times and below this one. But you can use a PHP script for it to work well. Okay. And for your code to also be a little bit neat, because it's a team, we can push it a little bit so that it will follow the same line as our TRs. Okay. Now when I run this, okay. So in case maybe you are asked like this, where you print it out for people to fill this table, then you don't need these columns a number of times. So let's say if it's 100, you just only have to give from 1 to 100. Then when you run, and if the table is going to be a little bit smaller, then you can make it, let's say 80. So when you can make the width, let's say 80. So when we run this, you can see we have 100 rows this inside it. Okay. So this is an example of the loop. So this is where the loop comes in. Okay. So this is where the loop comes in. So we'll continue. Okay. So that example. So it comes to, so plus they all do the same thing. So I plus plus, or the variable is equal to the variable plus, and the increments, they all do the same. Okay, so it means that it starts from 100. So far as this I is greater than or equal to 1, yet we need to decrease it, because we are starting from the top to the bottom. So we need to decrease it. So it starts from 100, then it executes. The decrease become 99, then the execute become 98, then it execute become 97, then it execute, it becomes 96, then it executes, it become 95, it executes, then it become 94, then it executes until it becomes 1, then it executes. Now 1 minus 1 is 0, but 0 is not greater than 1, so the loop ends. So if we run this, we still get the same output. Okay, so as you can see, the same output. So for the increment, so if you are starting from the top to the bottom, it's going to be decrement, and that one is going to be greater than or equal to or greater than, however you put your statement. But from the lower to the highest, then less than until we get to the highest point. Okay, so that is it for this. Then we come to a for loop. Now for loop is similar to our while loop, except the way it is written. In the while loop, we initialize our variable at the top, but in the for loop, we initialize our variable, then we do the increment also in the for top, then we also do the condition also in the for keyword. Okay, so this is how we write it. We have for, then brackets, then you initialize your variable here. Okay, unlike the while loop that you initialize the variable at the top, in the for loop you initialize your variable here. Then you write your condition after it over here. Then you write your increment or your decrement over here. Okay, then your curly brackets, what will be executed will be over here. So if I want to change this code to a for loop, then it means I will have for over here. So for, if I'm starting from lowest to highest, so for I is equal to 1, my I is less than or equal to 100, then my I plus plus. Okay, so here here we don't control the changing of the control variable. We don't change it here. We have it here. Okay, so in the for loop, the initialization is done here, followed by the condition over here, then followed by the increment or the decrement over there. Then you have your curly brackets to be executed whilst the loop goes on. Okay, so here it starts from 1, it increase, then 2, it increase until it gets 100. Then when you get 101, it will be executed. If the loop will exit because 101 is not less than 100. So when we run this code, we will still get the same. Okay, so they all achieve the same goal. Okay, so if you are also from the top to the bottom, then here it's going to be 100. Then when you are starting from the top, it's supposed to be greater than, okay, or equal to, then our list, then here will be 1. So from top to bottom is decrement, so we have minus minus. So when you execute, then it's going to be the same. You still get the same output. Okay, so you the programmer, you decide how you want to write loops, but they all do the same thing. So you decide which one is more easier for you. And so that's for our for loop. So in this example, it uses the same for 1 to 10. So initialization is here, the condition is here, and the increment is here. It's to display it, and the decrement to the condition, then the initialization condition, then the decrement. From top to bottom is minus minus. Okay, now we go to our do while loop. So what is the difference between the do while loop and the while loop? Now in the while loop, as I've explained to you, if the condition is false at the start of the loop, it will never be executed, because in the while loop the testing is done at the top. So if the condition is false, it will never be executed, because that curly bracket, it will not get there because the condition is false. But in the do while, the do comes before the while. The do comes before the condition. The do, you write the test to be executed before you check the condition. So at least the program will execute once, because you start to execute the code before you test the condition. So at least the code will be executed once, even if the condition is false, because you execute the code before you check the condition. So for example, in this example, we initialize our I to be 10. Now in here it says that while our I is less than 10, you can see that if it's a while loop, this will not run because our 10 is less than 10. But in the do while, this will run because it will start to execute this code. Then when it gets here, before it check the condition. So at the time it check the condition is false, it has already executed this code already. So that one is already done. So in the second loop, if the condition is false, it will not go to the second loop. So it will continue only if as it's going through the next loop, the condition is true. Then it keeps on being executed so far as the condition is true. But the difference between the do while and the while loop is that the while loop tests the condition first before the code will be executed. But the do while execute the code at least once, because the curly brackets come before the testing. So it will execute it at least once. Then the second cycle, it will test if the condition is true. Then if the condition is false, it will not repeat it again. But if it is true, it will keep on until the condition gets false, and it will exit the loop. So that's it for the. So if we want to test this one, I can copy and paste in our PHP code. So we can have this one. So we can have this one to test it. So if we test this one, so here, even though 10 is not less than 10, this part of code will execute the value of 10 because it's here is executed before we can test our condition. If I run this, if this were to be a while loop, it will not at all even be executed. If this were to be a while loop, so if I change this one to a while loop, you see that the page will be blank because when it tests that one first and it's not less than 10, so it will not come here at all. So that's the difference between the do and the while loop. Okay, so you can see. So that's the difference between the do and the while loop. Okay, so that's. So we continue. Okay, so this is your assignment. You write a code that will display the multiplication table. So it's going to be in the loop. So to display the multiplication table, so if the multiplication table for 2 is only this place that will be increasing. So you start your I from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 12. So it will just be multiplying the value and show its results. To multiply the value and show its result, multiply the value and show it in the loop. So all this one is one loop. So you start the loop from 1 to 12. Then the equation will multiply the number of multiples you want. Then the result will be displayed over here. Okay. So that's your assignment. So you try to do that one. And let's see how it goes. Okay. So that's it for today. So in a future project, maybe we may have what we call a loop in the loop. And the loop in the loop is just a loop in another loop. Okay, so for example, even though this is not here, I can also explain the loop for you with an example. So in the loop, let's say for example, if you have multiplication table from 12 to 12, so we can have maybe for example, we can have for our I is equal to 1, then our I is now equal to 12, and we can have our I plus. Okay, so this will be our vertical. So this will be our vertical row. So in the horizontal row, we can have another loop which will be for here. We can change our variable to j. So j is equal to 1, j is less than 8, j is less than or equal to 12, and j plus plus. Okay, so have it like this. Okay, so now here we can have each of the verticals are going to be in the 1p. So we have p, but the horizontal will be on the same row. Okay, so to separate. Okay, so this one is for the vertical, one, and this one will be for the horizontal one. So when we display, we just display. So we already have this one, so we just echo. So we echo our I by our j. Okay, then we leave a space so that the next one will not get up to each other. Okay, so I'm going to run this and you see what I'm talking about. So we are going to, if you are from Africa, where we'll be reciting our multiplication table. In the multiplication table, we have one vertical and one horizontal, and the vertical multiplies the horizontal. So that's the same thing. The first for loop is for the vertical, and the second for loop, which is inside our vertical, is our horizontal values. So when our I is 1, it will come in this inner loop, and this inner loop will start from 1 to 12. So at the time our I is 1, we will have 1 times, and when our j is 1, 1 times 1. Now when our j increases to 2, we have 1 times 2. When our j increases to 3, we have 1 times 3. When our j increases to 4, we have 1 times 4. When our j increases to 12, we have 1 times 12. Then this loop ends at 12, so it will exit. So once this part of the code is done, then our I, it comes here. So our I will increase to 2. So at the time our I is 2, then the inner loop will start to run. So it will start from 1 again. So that will be for the horizontal one. So you start from 1. So you get 2 times 1, which will be the value. Then you get 2 times 2. The j increase to 2. So it becomes 2 times 2. Then the j increase to 3 becomes 2 times 3. Then the j increase to 4. Then the j increase to 12. Then it leaves the second loop. Then it goes to the third loop in that order. So let's run it. Then you see what I'm talking about it. Okay. So this is just the way, but it's something that you should also. Okay. So as you can see, we have 1 times 1. 1 times 2 is 2, 3 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 5. Now 2 times 2 is 4. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 5 is 10. And 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times is this. Now you can also put this one in the table so that they will be in one table, but this is just a demonstration, so it's not necessary. But for you to play the code.
Okay, so try to put the multiplication table in the tabular form so that there will be borders. So you give the table a border. So you put it in a table, in HTML table, so that there will be borders so that you can see the dimensions of them. Okay. But try to do the assignment as well. If you have any problem, try to contact me. Okay. So enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.